Today is the first day that the new ban list is in effect, and while it does have a lot of competitive implications, I think what I'm most interested in, what a lot of people are most interested in right now, is trying to find a way to play some of the cards that got unbanned, like Elemental Stratos, and also like Morphing Jar and Card of Destruction, or Card Destruction, not Card of Destruction, it's not Card of Demise, Card Destruction. And while I do think that Card Destruction likely will see competitive play, this card's pretty crazy, I'm actually not so sure about Morphing Jar. I think it's probably too slow nowadays, and also I completely understand people why not know what these cards do. So Morphing Jar is a flip effect monster. Both players discard their hands and both players draw 5 cards. You want to use this effect when your opponent has as many cards in hand as possible. And then Card Destruction is kind of like the spell version of that. Both players must discard their entire hands and draw the same number of cards that they discarded from their respective decks. So basically that's like a really, I have like the really old printing. I started deck Yugi from back in the day. It's also like super scratched up. Anyway, though, Card Destruction is kind of like the opposite of Morphing Jar. You want to use it when your opponent has very few cards in hand, and then you want to use it when both these cards you just want to use when you have a million good cards in your hand to discard that actually have trigger effects. And if you do want to play both these cards in a deck, I think that today's deck profile, which is Dark World Dangers, is probably the best way to do that. If you want to play Card Destruction, you can probably play it in any Danger deck or like a Burning Abyss strategy. The Dinosaur decks are pretty good for this as well. I think a lot of decks in general will play Card Destruction just because it's a really good way. It's kind of like a, I don't know, it seems like Magical Mallet, but it actually is a lot better that the cards go to the grave than you putting them back in the deck. So I think these cards might see play, might not see play, but if you want to play both of them in sort of like a casual deck right now, I think Danger Dark Worlds are like the way to go. So in today's video, I wanted to do this deck profile because, I don't know, it's kind of overdue. I was playing this deck on stream when Danger cards were first revealed, and I never ended up profiling it. I ended up profiling Danger Blue Eyes, and I thought it's a little overdue, so we might as well do it now that we have 2 pretty crazy cards back. And yeah, if you're wondering why like Card Destruction was brought back, it absolutely was to promote the Danger cards. Like I think everyone kind of knows that now. But like it's not that like Konami doesn't want other decks to play it, but it's very clearly designed to promote the new Danger cards. Anyway, we have 3 Grapha. Pretty important card. This is a blind going second deck. You're just trying to OTK your opponent. Basically, you're trying to get Grapha and Bigfoot on board, which when you have the field spell is 6,000 damage. So if you can just put 2,000 more damage on board, you'll win the game. We have 3 copies of Snow. Snow's like your main searcher. It grabs everything in the deck. It's a pretty crazy card, actually, especially considering how old this card is. 3 copies of Brow. It's pretty good. It's like the main monster you want to like normal summon to bounce back for Grapha. It can dig towards your unsearchable like one-ofs that are like super sacky, so that's kind of cool. And then 1 copy of Beige. I don't particularly like this card, however, it is pretty good for putting 1900 damage on board when you can special summon it when you have the field spell up. That is pretty relevant. It's free link material. The thing with this deck that I'm sure many of you know is the Dark Worlds do not trigger off of being discarded for cost. They only trigger off of being discarded for effects, where the Danger cards will trigger off of cost or effect. The really cool thing is that all these cards will trigger off of being discarded by the Danger cards themselves, which means that when you have a hand of like Danger cards and Dark World cards, you'll probably just win that game. Anyway, for the Danger cards, we have 3 copies of Bigfoot. This is the main one. It destroys your opponent's board. It has a lot of attack points. It's really good. It's just, it's level 8 as well, which is super relevant. And then we have 3 copies of Nessie. It's like the Searcher card. I wish this card had like its attack and defense stats switched. I understand why it doesn't have that, because then it probably would be too good, especially in a deck like this. This is trying to OTK your opponent. However, yeah, it's still a good card. You still want to play 3. I actually realized when I was putting this deck together that I never picked up a 3rd Jackalope, so we're playing 2 Jackalope and 1 Chupacabra. I think I still would keep in the Chupacabra. I know a lot of people don't like this card. I understand. It is pretty important to bring back a Bigfoot from your graveyard, though, and also this card's Fiend, so you can actually discard it with Gates of the Dark World, which is like a pretty cool interaction. But definitely you want to try to fit it. If you have 3 Jackalope, definitely play 3 Jackalope. I can't believe I forgot to pick one of those up. When I got all these cards from some guy, he didn't have any Jackalope, actually, so I just had to make do with what I had. That's it for the main monsters, and then we just have that 1 sweet copy of Morphing Jar. Will this card ever win you a game? Maybe. Will it be super consistent? Probably not, but it's kind of a fun card to have back. So first Jar card unbanned, so we have like Morphing Jar number 2 is banned, and Cyber Jar is banned, and Fiber Jar is banned. All those Jar cards are banned, which is crazy to think that like back in the day, just sort of on my soapbox here for a second, back in the day, like Jar cards were like really prevalent. Like you had to, anytime you ran into a face down monster, you had to worry about like if it was Cyber Jar or Fiber Jar. Nowadays you don't have to worry about that so much. So yeah, it's kind of a cool card. For spell cards, 3 Gates, one of the best cards in the deck. It's probably the best card to trigger Dark Worlds with, because you just get so much advantage off of it. Just cycles through your deck, banishes stuff. It's cool. 3 Dark World dealings. This card's, I don't know. I know a lot of people like this card, and a lot of people say it's like really good, and it is really good. Like it's not that it's not good. It's just you never want to give your opponent free cards, right? And this just lets your opponent fix their hand, but you really need this for your own engine. And I think the idea behind this in this deck in particular is that this card isn't very good when you go first, but this is a deck where you're always going second, so it's not that big a deal. But I don't know. I'm still pretty conflicted on this card, as well as Drag Down, which we are playing 3 copies of. The thing with Drag Down in particular is that seeing you're going second, almost always when your opponent passes, the only cards left in their hand are like hand traps and stuff, so you can just drag down and get rid of the hand trap. We're not playing any hand traps because you can't play like hand traps in a deck like this. Like probably if you were side decking with it, you would, but in terms of like game 1, blind going second, you can't really play hand traps because we just need to, well, I know what other decks you do, but in this deck in particular, you actually need all the cards in your hand to be Dark Worlds and danger cards, so you can always activate the danger cards without any danger of discarding a bad card. But yeah, this card's pretty crazy, so I'm a fan of it in certain matchups, especially in the blind going second strategy. It's I mean, Goku's playing this for a little while just to combo off, but yeah, that's it for the 3 ofs. We have 2 trade-in. Discarding Grappa isn't that good, but discarding Bigfoot with this card is so stupid, because you get 2 draws and you blow up a card, and that's just I mean that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But sometimes you actually do need to put the Grappa in graveyard just to special summon it and do the damage, and that's fine too. It's just a good all-around card for a deck like this. 2 Twin Twisters just to trigger Farfa. No, but 2 Twin Twisters because it's good. Like, a lot of people are maining this card now. I think Altergeist can be really strong in this format. I think just back row decks in general are going to be really strong in this format. So maining a card like this is good. It's good because it triggers the danger cards. You know, I keep saying, but like it's really important when we're looking at cards like Trade and Twin Twisters. Maybe they wouldn't be as valuable in this deck if they didn't trigger the danger cards, but specifically because they trigger your engine, they're just like really good. I kind of think of it like Karma Cut and Phoenix Wing Windblast back when those were played in Burning Abyss. Like, they're not like particularly strong cards because they're like -1s, but in the case when they're actually helping your deck's engine, they become much more powerful. 2 Call by the Grave. This card is semi-limited for some reason, but yeah, this card's really good in this deck. You don't, like I said, same thing with the Drag Down. You don't want your opponent to have hand traps. Pretty big deal, so Call by the Grave. And then for the 1-ofs, we have 1 Monster Reborn, no Soul Charge because we always go second. And then 1 Foolish Burial. This can set up your graveyard for Chupacabra. It can put Graph in the graveyard. It can just do a lot of things. I like this card a lot. And then the card Destruction. If you draw this card, hopefully you'll win the game. I think in most cases you will, as long as you don't draw just all spell cards. And then lastly, I'm not playing this card in many danger decks. However, in this deck, this card is particularly valuable. And the reason that this card is good in this deck, more so than the other danger decks, is because in this deck, you can discard Grapha and Bigfoot. That is super stupid. Like, drawing 3 cards and then blowing up 2 of your opponent's cards is like, you'll just win every time you do that. So in this deck in particular, if you are playing this version of Dangers, I highly recommend Danger Zone. I think this card is only going to get better with time. We don't know what the next wave of Dangers is going to look like, but this card is just, I mean, when you can discard really if you just discard Bigfoot and any Dark World monster, it's really powerful. So I like this card a lot in this version. I know not everyone plays it. I know even I don't play it in every version of Dangers, but in this version of Dangers, I think you have to play that card. Anyway, for the extra deck, we have the most important cards, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Goblin, Nightmare Unicorn. Just like Twin Twisters, just like Trade-In, these will trigger the danger cards. Back in the day, before Hornet Drones got limited, we would play just 3 Hornet Drones in this deck just to make these cards really easily. That's not like super relevant. Like, yeah, you could just play 1 Kagari in your extra deck and 1 Hornet Drones in your main deck, but it's not really that good anymore. It's just a splashable engine. But these cards are still really good. If you can resolve these, if you can resolve like these 2 and trigger effects, like the danger effects, you'll probably win the game. So that's cool. For the OTKs, we have Wee Witch's Apprentice. If you ever played Paleozoic Frogs, you'll know that this isn't that crazy. I know it's a weird comparison to make, but that deck plays 2 Miststar Boy, and one of the reasons it does that is because if you can set up 1 Miststar Boy and then summon the second one and then summon a Toad, that's over 8,000 damage. In the same way in this deck, if you can summon 2 of these and then a monster with like 2,000-ish attack, I don't actually know the math. I think it's like, because they're, I don't know. These are both 24, so that's 48, so you need 22, or you need 32. I'm bad at math, but let's see. You need 32, so you need something with at least 2,200 attack points, and that'll be 8,000 damage. That's pretty easy to do, so I think that you have to play these cards, especially considering you're blowing up your opponent's board as you go along. And then we have one Ningirsu, because this isn't as important anymore because Goblin doesn't exist, but it's still a good card. This is one of the only decks, this is going to be crazy, we are playing every single Boral card. So Boral Dragon, Boral Sword Dragon, and Boral Guard Dragon. Boral Guard Dragon isn't usually played, however it has an effect that says, once per turn you can target one monster in the field, change it to face-up defense position, your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. The reason that effect is good is because you can flip up a Morphing Jar on your first turn, which is pretty funny. You don't really have any normal summons in this deck besides Morphing Jar, so you can always just set Morphing Jar and then make this and then flip it face up. That's hilarious, so you gotta play this card. And then one Topologic Gumblar Dragon. No, we are not extra linking our opponents. That's not the goal. However, this does just have the regular discard effect, which is pretty good, and you can trigger fairly easily. So that's it for the link monsters. For the Exceed monsters, we have kind of weird, but we do have Utopia and Utopia the Lightning. I did find one of the reasons that this deck can lose is because it just has like not enough big monsters on the board. So this is a pretty big monster. You can make it with Snow, Beige, and Chupacabras. So that's pretty good. And then for the rank 8s, I'm playing Cypher Dragon and full armor Photon Dragon. You can steal a monster and then you can make this and blow up a monster. It's pretty good. And then we are playing one Hope Harbinger, the beautiful super rare copy that we just pulled in the last video. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to play this deck, don't expect too much out of it. I think it certainly will win some games, and probably like this week or the next week is like the best time to play it because no one knows like what this format's going to be. But this is a fun way to play Morphing Jar and Card Destruction if you are looking forward to playing those cards. Thank you so much for watching though. I'll see you guys later. Bye.